Hey friends, welcome to Soot Videos. My name is Joan and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make your very own DIY pom-pom keychains. These are a super cute and easy DIY if you're making a gift or wanting to make some keychains to dress up your backpack or your purse. I'm going to be showing 4 different designs ranging from the easiest to what I think is the hardest to make, but even the hardest is like pretty easy and super simple. So feel free to check out the timestamps down below if you're looking for a specific design, and all the materials you'll need for the DIY will be listed down there as well. With that, let's get on with the video. For a lot of DIY pom-pom tutorials I see on TikTok, they actually use a fork, but I've tried out this method and it always makes my pom-poms fall apart. So for the designs in this video, I'll be using the hand method, which I find is just more easier and efficient anyways. So first I'm going to cut off a piece of yarn long enough to reach my wrist and put it between my middle and ring finger. Then just taking the rest of my yarn, I'm going to use my thumb to pinch the end of the yarn so I don't accidentally let go while I'm spooling it. And then I'm just going to keep wrapping it around my forefingers until I'm happy with how much yarn I have and how thick it is for my pom-pom. I'm going to cut the yarn off, and then taking the piece that's in between my fingers, I'm going to tie a knot with it. So first I'm just going to start off with a simple knot. It's kind of nice to have your thumb to move around that you can kind of pinch down. And the trick to this is you really want to tie this part really tight. This is super important because this is what's going to be holding your whole pom-pom together. So once you've already gotten a bit tight, we're going to slip off this spooled yarn off of our fingers, and again keeping on just tightening that yarn before doing a double knot to secure everything. Again, if that part is loose, your pom-pom's not going to stick together, so make sure it's nice and tight. And then I'm just going to trim off any excess yarn that's just kind of extra long and hanging off, just so I can have a nice starting piece so that we can start trimming to make our pom-pom. So you're going to notice the majority of the yarn is now in loops, so we're just going to put our scissors through the loops of yarn and just cut right through them. As long as earlier you tighten the middle piece tight enough, you shouldn't worry too much about just kind of shoving your scissors in and just cutting away until you make this nice loose pom-pom. If you didn't tie it tight enough, you'll just notice your yarn pieces starting to fall out, and then the pom-pom just kind of disintegrates. Unfortunately, you probably just have to start again at that point, but hopefully you should turn out with something that looks like this. I like to run my fingers through just to make sure there's no more loops of yarn to be cut. And since we're making our Soot sprite design as the easiest one first, I'm going to start cutting out the eyes, just grabbing some paper to make some circles. You can do the same thing I did here where I folded a piece of paper, then just cut a semicircle to make a circle, or just cut however you like to cut your paper circles. But of course we need 2 for our eyes, and then just grabbing a Sharpie, I'm going to color in the pupils, and then we're on to the step of attaching them to the pom-pom. Here I'm just finding a good place to put them. I don't really want them to be just on a random piece of yarn, so I tried to look for some flatter pieces kind of on the inside near the middle part of the pom-pom where I made the original tie. Quick warning, if you're using hot glue, I actually burned myself with a different design I was trying out, so please be careful when you're doing this. You can see I even use a pen to try and push everything down to make sure it's nice and secure, not even my own finger. You can also use craft glue as a safer alternative as well. And once you're done attaching the eyes, you're basically done making your Soot sprite pom-pom. To me, this is definitely the easiest design since it's essentially just making a pom-pom. But next up, we're going to be making an apple. So with every design, we start off with a pom-pom, so I'm just doing the same method as before for the Soot sprite. Spooling my yarn on my fingers, tightening it down the middle, making sure that's all secure, and then of course cutting through our loops to make our pom-pom. Once we're done cutting through all the loops, and again just making sure that nothing is left uncut, the new step we're going to be doing for this design is trimming down our pom-pom. If you notice now, of course it does look like a pom-pom, but it's very unruly, the lengths of yarn are uneven, and it's also not perfectly round or nicely curved, which apples usually are. So here I'm just kind of picking a point of where I want the top of my apple to be and kind of pinching that area. That way I can orient myself as I trim down my pieces of yarn, and overall just start to shape my pom-pom into kind of one like an apple. I'm making sure to turn the pom-pom around so I can see it from all angles, and just trimming away to kind of cut it until it looks nice and round from most angles, as you can see here. For the stem portion, I'm just taking a green piece of pipe cleaner. I'm first going to kind of bend it over and then just twist it to make the leaf portion. Once that's nice and secure and shaped, I'm going to just take a bit more of the pipe cleaner and curve it to make the stem, and then cut it to the length I want it to be. I'm going to be putting it onto the area where I was pinching, since that's the top of my apple. And then using hot glue, I'm just going to carefully put it onto the top, making sure it's nice and secure. And there you have it, my apple pom-pom. Again, this one is pretty easy to make as well. The only extra added step is just trimming. But now we're on to making our heart keychain. Once again, I'm following all the steps to make my pom-pom first, making sure to spool my yarn, tighten it down the middle, and of course cutting it to make my first basic pom-pom shape. But for the heart, we're actually going to be needing not just one, but two pom-poms. The idea is that they'll each be one side of the heart and we'll need to attach them. But first I'm just gonna look and notice where the pom-pom kind of lies flat. And this is just kind of the side where we did the tying when we were making the pom-poms. And using these flat sides to attach the pom-poms together is just gonna make sure they're a bit more secured, and it helps hide any kind of holes from your pom-pom making. And start trimming the pointy bottom part of the heart. The second feature of the heart I'll be doing that's a bit easier to start with is kind of the indent between the two curves on the top of the heart. Since these are such defined shapes of the heart, it's just easier to start with that, just so we kind of have an idea of what we want our heart to look like. I kind of want my heart to be a bit more flatter than puffy, just to make sure the shape stands out. So here I am holding my heart with one of the sides facing up, so I'm able to kind of level everything down to kind of the same height or length of yarn. And I keep going back to the pointy parts and the indent in between the two sides of the heart, just cutting those when I think it needs more definition. And after touching up the curves of the heart and trimming off any excess hairs, we're done our heart pom-pom. This is a really popular one I see on TikTok, and for good reason, because it always turns out really cute. Now we're on to what I think is the more challenging pom-pom to make, and it's the flower keychain pom-pom. You're going to need 5 pom-poms of the colors you want for your petals, and the goal is to trim them down to around the same size. And my tip for trimming would definitely be to cut off more than you think. Otherwise, trimming actually takes kind of a long time. But as you can see, the shorter I'm cutting the yarn off, it just helps the shape look a lot more even, a lot more fluffier, and less spiky, messy, unruly, which is not what we want for our flowers. Once I'm done trimming my 5 pom-poms, try not to sneeze over how much loose yarn and dust is now flying around, I'm going to make another colored pom-pom for the middle of my flower. For this pom-pom, you can shape them to be the same size as your petals, or bigger or smaller, it's kind of your choice. Whatever size it ends up being, I'm just going to make sure that again, it's as round as can be, and I'm just going to make sure to cut off any excess. Once that's done, I can already see how my flower is going to look once I put everything together. If I'm happy with all the sizing, I'm going to take my hot glue gun and again making sure I am hot gluing the two sides of the pom-poms that are a bit more flatter against each other. You can also kind of use your fingers to spread out and find the middle of the pom-pom and use that to secure it. But I'm just going to do that with all of my petals and secure it to the middle pom-pom piece. But if you also want to, you can also hot glue along the sides of the pom-poms so that the petals are also sticking to each other, just to make sure that nothing falls off too easily. Once I'm done with that, as you can see, it kind of looks like a blob. So the goal now for trimming is to just define where the petals are connecting with each other. So just shaving down the indents between the petals, and then of course shaping everything else to be as even as possible. So here I am just cutting in between the petals. I'm trying not to cut too deep that it of course gets rid of how they're sticking to each other, but just enough to make it so that the curves of the petals are more defined. And then here I'm just leveling off the two sides of my flowers. And I'm gonna try to make it as flat as possible and cut off any excess or parts that I think are poking out quite a bit. You can kind of see the difference between the uncut and cut sides. I'm just going to do that to both sides. This just helps make it a bit more even and gives it a more finished look. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to trim and shape up the curves of the petals to make sure they're nice and even. And with that, we're done making our pom-pom flower. However, we're not just making pom-poms, we're of course making keychains. So here I'm using split rings and jump rings. And the main gist is that I'm just going to use some pliers to open up my jump ring, loop it onto a part of my pom-pom, making sure to squeeze and close that up. And then I'm going to be making a long chain of jump rings, attaching them all together before putting on my split ring on the very end. Of course, depending on how many jump rings you connect, that determines how long your keychain will hang. So you get to decide how long you want it to be, and then once you put on the split ring, you're basically done your keychain. For the apple, it's pretty easy since I just hook the jump ring over the leaf. For all the other pom-poms that we made, I'm basically going to try to loop my first jump ring onto the really tight tied up piece of string that's holding the pom-pom together. You can usually find this just by kind of spreading apart the pom-pom yarn and then looking for that yarn piece that's just going across really tightly. Once I've looped my jump ring on there and made my jump ring chain, putting on the split ring just finishes the whole assembly process. And that's basically what I do to assemble all the keychains for all the pom-poms that we made. Here you can see me finding that piece of yarn that I want to attach my jump rings to. And once again, I'm just looping my jump rings through that, and then that basically secures my keychain. So here are the final results of our pom-pom keychains. I think they all turned out super cute. They each kind of have their own charm to it, and even though they are all different degrees of difficulty in terms of making, again, I feel like they're all pretty simple and all have a great result. And again, are a great way to kind of add to your backpack or purse or bag to kind of give that personal, cute little charm. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys were able to make your very own keychains. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!